Hey guys, my name is Matimo, and today I wanted to take a look at the Scar H for the Enforcer class in Battlefield Hardline. Admittedly, I wasn't all that impressed when I first started to use these battle rifles. I thought, oh great, they hit really hard, but because they have just an absurd amount of recoil, they're too unwieldy to be competitive on the battlefield. I thought, why would anyone want to use the Scar H over something like the M16, or basically any of the assault rifles for the operator class, or the great guns for the mechanic? I just couldn't understand why you would want to use these weapons. But after using them for hours and on hours, and slowly getting adjusted to how these weapons perform, I've grown to love the Scar H. It has quickly become one of my favorite weapons in the game because while yes, it can be quite difficult, and yeah, it's not the best weapon on the battlefield, God, is it satisfying to basically two-shot an enemy that's a good 30 meters away. They are really powerful weapons in the right hands. And so easily the best attribute associated with the Scar H is that it's going to do 43 damage per bullet at 20 meters and closer, and then it's going to drop off to 24 damage per bullet 50 meters and out. The best thing about it is that apparently Visceral thinks that this is a little underpowered, especially for its long-range killing potential, and they're going to be upgrading that long-range damage from 24 bullets or 24 damage up to 25. And so instead of requiring 5 rounds to take someone out at those long extreme distances, they're now going to be dropping it down to 4. That is going to be a huge difference. Honestly though, this is a gun that's not really meant for taking people out at those long ranges, and it really comes down to the crazy amount of vertical recoil that you're going to have to deal with. Its first shot recoil is actually really low, and it's one of the main reasons why you're going to want to tap fire the Scar H and basically all of the battle rifles for the Enforcer class, because pretty much all of them have a very low first shot recoil, and honestly they're one of the lowest in the games, especially if you compare it to all of the other assault rifles. These are weapons that are meant to be tap fired, but as soon as you hold down the trigger, they are going to kick like crazy. The Scar H has a vertical of 1.1. To give you a comparison, that is more than double the vertical recoil of the popular M16A3. Granted, it's not going to wiggle too much to the left and the right. This is one great aspect about using the Scar H, is that it has almost no horizontal recoil whatsoever, and so my main advice is that if you've been struggling with the Enforcer class and with these battle rifles, is that you aim for the upper chest and turn this into a headshot machine. The first round is going to go right into their chest, and then the second one, because of that crazy amount of recoil, is going to rise straight up the face, and you're going to get that 2-shot kill. You would be amazed at how often this happens on the battlefield. Like, this truly can be a headshot machine, but you just have to take this tactic into mind, and it will allow you to hopefully be able to dispatch of multiple enemies back to back. One sort of downside is that it has a very slow rounds per minute. Compared to all of the others, it's actually on the high end. It comes in at 625, and while I know that doesn't really sound all that impressive, you compare that to basically all of the other battle rifles, it's the second fastest. And so yes, it doesn't have a crazy 800 RPM like the M16A3 or 1200 like the K10, but as long as you're able to reel in that recoil and take advantage of that crazy high damage model, and you're able to get a few headshots in there, you can compete with these other weapons. Like, do not get me wrong. Yes, it has a very slow RPM, but as long as you start to get adjusted to that recoil and you're able to work around its weaknesses and take advantage of its strengths, you are going to have no problem competing with all of the other weapons in Battlefield Hardline. And then lastly, it has 21 rounds in its magazine. It has a short reload of 1.9, which is blazing fast, by the way. That is awesome. And then it has a long reload time of 2.4 seconds if you've gone through all of the rounds and you didn't make sure that there was a bullet left in your chamber. So now that we have a basic understanding of how this weapon performs, the way that I like to use it on the battlefield is I like to play the medium game. If I'm able to get into a conflict with someone who's a good 20 to 30 meters out, I'm one happy camper. At those distances, I can drop an enemy with 3 rounds without having to get a headshot, and of course, if I am able to get a headshot, lucky enough, then I can drop them in 2. Another reason why I love this distance is that as soon as you get a little bit closer, then you're going to have to deal with a mechanic class like the K10, and as we all know, that thing is ridiculously powerful and very popular in Battlefield Hardline. Yes, you can compete with it. Yes, if you get lucky enough or you're skillful enough to get a headshot in close encounter combat, you can still compete with the K10 user, but it's going to be trickier. Right now, the K10 is pretty easy mode. They can hip fire you down, kind of spray in front of them, and they're still going to get the kill, while you need to rely on your accuracy. And so once again, getting to that medium distance is just more beneficial for this weapon because of the higher damage and simply because you don't have to deal with the popular mechanic weapons in the game. As for the attachments that I would recommend to assist you with your endeavors, I always would go with the stock for the accessory slot. If you are not using the stock, you're admittedly doing something wrong. And honestly, all the others are pretty much crap. I mean, you don't need the laser sight, the flashlight's pretty much terrible. So the stock, you should pretty much always use standard with the Scar H. As for the barrel attachments, I would almost always use the muzzle brake. You can use the compensator, which does mention that it does reduce the vertical recoil, but it has a negative attribute of also reducing your accuracy. The muzzle brake, on the other hand, just simply reduces recoil, but has no negative attribute. It's honestly one of the best attachments in the game right now. You could use the heavy barrel, which also reduces the vertical. It's another solid pick, but right now I've had a lot of luck with the muzzle brake. I find it to be very effective, and so if you are having a hard time reeling in that recoil, make sure that you are slapping that on your rifle. As for the grip, it's going to be a toss-up between what fits your fancy. You can use the angle grip, which is what I have been using so far, which reduces that first shot recoil, but because the first shot recoil really isn't all that substantial, you can't really go wrong with using the stubby grip as well. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's review of the Scar H. I hope you enjoyed. Give me your thoughts about this weapon. Do you enjoy the battle rifles in Hardline? Do you find them to be too unwieldy and you would much rather just use the assault rifles? Let me know down below. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.